my attitude to everything. A 10k, a 5k, go as hard as you can, out of the traps as quick as you can, and until essentially you just collapse. But
Run, Forrest.
Yeah. I just started running.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Any Given Runday podcast. My name is Sean. We are here with Eric, Conor and Aaron. I don't know why I did it like that, but I've done it like that. We're going straight into it. On this week's podcast episode, we're going getting a little bit away from Aaron last week talking about 5k running and Marty Park training to get a bit more specific. I want to say complicated a little bit. We're going to be talking about heart rate running and how that's helped Eric with his €400 watch and lead towards a 3:35 marathon the last time?
3:35, yeah.
3:35 marathon, and you say obviously that was a big help to it. So we're going to let you take the floor and just talk about the type of training, the heart rate type training you do for your marathon training.
Yeah, so pretty much like as we said in the intro, I said I never liked running. I couldn't understand it, no matter how much I run. And with the background of work and stuff, you just went as hard as you can for as long as you can until you couldn't go anymore. And that was my attitude to the marathon. The first time we did it, it was my attitude to everything. A 10k, a 5k, go as hard as you can, out of the traps as quick as you can, and until essentially you just collapse. But
Run, Forrest.
Yeah, I just started running. But it was only when I got into the triathlons and I realised that you can't do that. It's very unforgiving in the sense that if you burn yourself out early, you will not survive the whole race, let alone a few of them in a couple of weekends. And it was only when I went training with a few people who did it and got talking to a few endurance runners and stuff that I would know that you kind of get quite humbled about running slow. And there was a few books and stuff I downloaded Audible. I listened to a few books, like David Goggins was one who I would listen to, and his name escapes me now, but it was another endurance runner who went from being
Rich Roll, was it?
That's him. Yeah. He was he went to do an ultra marathon after being severely out of shape, addicted to cheeseburgers, and all of a sudden became vegan and addicted to endurance races essentially. And that was the first time I've heard of the going slow to go fast, and it blew my mind. So I had come through the kind of triathlon season. I was kind of in the middle. I'd done the Olympics ones. I'd achieved that kind of goal. It was a big step for me. And then I said, right, well, I've been involved in this. I've been doing training. I'd like to see how I can improve the training. And a friend of mine had one of these Garmin's. Now Garmin haven't paid me to say anything like this. We're not that good. But he had one, and he swore by it and the durability of it. And I had we actually got one of the Fitbits, and I think mine broke after about 2.5 months of doing the triathlon training.
Well, you couldn't use it properly for swimming, so you probably bounced it off a wall or something.
Yeah, I couldn't swim. So I just found durable wise I needed something that was going to last the range of stuff I was going to be doing, and as well and because I read a good bit about this heart rate training, I was like, I need something that has the best quality of stuff, buy cheap buy twice kind of attitude. Whereas like, right, it was kind of like I tried myself for 9 months of, am I actually into this? I still kind of don't like running. But I bought it and said, look, I've invested so much into a wetsuit, a bike, a this, a that. I'm still training, so I justified the means for, yes, it is very expensive watch. I think at the time it was $460 or something I got it for, which is a big expense. However, to this day, still the best buy I have had in my training. So my first marathon was the one we suffered on. Did not like. Ego took over. We were fit young men, we could do anything, take over the world, and we were humbled big time, and to a point where we probably didn't want to talk to each other for about 2 weeks afterwards. So 5 hours and 3 minutes I believe my time was in the first one. So then this time I swore I'd never do a marathon again unless I trained, and then coming through the triathlons I was still unsure if I wanted to do a marathon because I really did not enjoy that first time at all. And I got the watch. I seen there was programs associated with the heart rate training on Garmin. I said, you know what, maybe I'll give it a go. So I got the watch, and 16 weeks prior to the marathon I was well set up. I had the watch ready and I followed the training plan through Garmin training plans, and it was based on the heart rate training. And the first run we did, it was pretty much you had to maintain your heart rate in zone 2, which is I think from about 115 beats per minute to 136 thereabouts. I don't know the exact, it's roughly, I'm never on that, and I'm usually in the middle somewhere.
But for those that have a Fitbit, that's not even in your cardio zone. That's fat burning zone.
Yeah, fat burning zone. Yeah, that's right
walking.
Walking.
A little bit more than walking.
Yeah, but at times when I was starting it out, and I had done triathlons, remember, and I had just trained as hard as I could. I went swimming, run. I just trained a lot, so I got over the line. But endurance wise, I wasn't ready in terms of my heart. I was working very hard to the point that I was in the zone where any longer I'd probably collapse type thing. So I was putting my body under a lot of pressure. So on the first training session, I think it was a 30-minute zone 2 run, and all I had to do was keep my heart rate in zone 2, and I was like, sure, this is going to be easy. Yeah. So I went for a run back where I'm from, and I had to run in order to maintain zone 2. I was running at a 7-minute 10-kilometer pace. And this is coming off the back of 9 triathlons. I was like, this is embarrassing. There was 2 women walking their dogs. They were walking faster than I was running, and I was mortified. I was like, I am never running around my town again if I'm doing this. Yeah. Now, I had read in the books that similarly this guy for about 4 or 5 weeks, Rich Roll, was mortified at how slow he was running, and only I had read and listened to his kind of trouble. I was like, this is stupid. I would have ploughed on. However, 2 weeks passed, same run, 6-minute kilometer pace. Another 2 weeks, same run, 5-minute 30-kilometer pace, and my heart rate wasn't even in the cardio zone. It was still in the fat burning, I'm going for a brisk walk kind of zone. And that's when I started to understand the endurance game. The endurance game is about managing your body, managing the heart. And so for me, going for the marathon then in zone 3, which is what I was supposed to do, I was running at a 4-minute 50 pace for the majority of the marathon, and my heart rate at its average was only about 156 beats per minute. Whereas which is what keeps you going for longer, because you're not burning yourself out essentially. And that was a big change, a big transition, and people go like, how do you do it, or how do you do this? And to be honest, when I tell them I had to run slow to run faster, people are like, yeah, I'm not buying whatever you're selling. But genuinely, it was a weird phenomenon. It was weird to be running that slow and to see how bad my heart was at endurance. Like, it was like struggling to stay below 136 at that 7-minute 10 per kilometer pace.
Now that's only once a week where you go that slow. So the other ones,
so it changes it up. So we go to intervals. So it'll be an interval of 5-minute interval in zone 4, which I found in the first couple of weeks very easy to get to. That would just be an increase to what I would have called a normal run, and
that's a normal run for 5 minutes at 450 pace, whatever you're doing, and then just stop and then go again.
It's a little break. You reduce to a jog. But what I found is I couldn't reduce to a jog to get my heart rate down to the zone 2 again, so I'd have to walk in order to give the heart a chance to come back down to the correct zone. Then when 90 seconds countdown, particularly with the watch, it gives you the timings, it tells you where your heart is, it beeps at you if it goes over or under, and it counts you down for it to go again. But I found a fantastic motivator even on days when you're going, especially with the interval training. There was no one around, it was just me and the watch. But when that watch beeps, you're like, oh shit, you have to go.
It's almost like the beep test. So you get the line, it's like beep, damn it, gotta go again. You have
to go, and you look down, you're like, oh, there's only 200 meters gone, there's only a minute gone, and I'm suffering. But it's fantastic training. And then there's another one where it's a threshold run that kind of gets you used to what you're going to be doing for the marathon, and so you're running in your zone 3, and they're the little wins. And it was a drastic, like I ran a half marathon distance with one of the guys, and I think my heart rate was 196 for the entire time. 2 hours it took us to run a half marathon. My average heart rate was 180, and I started getting cramps in the last 15 minutes. I started getting lightheaded, I started getting everything. That's because my body was working so hard just to keep a 5-minute kilometer pace for the entire thing. And then 4 weeks later, after sticking to this, I did, naturally the training program brought me up to do an hour and a half run or an hour 45 run, and I was just shy of the half marathon. My average heart rate was 146 or something like that.
So that's a huge drop. That's a
massive drop. And that was what I'm saying about that runner's high. Then you get into your car, you go home, you get about your day. Whereas the week before, I was nearly hospitalised. I was like, call an ambulance. Get me a croissant.
Where's the defibrillator?
Get me a croissant and a Coke quick. But it's it did make a massive difference, and to this marathon to kind of draw the full circle, I trust in it so much that I'm hoping to go for the 3:30 again. Now we'll see how we go, but I'm gonna base my training off the heart rate training again, because I've seen such a fundamental difference in myself. And I'm not small either. Like I'm 90 kilos on average. I'm 6'2", 6'3", thereabouts. So it was a massive difference for me to see that much change in myself so quickly over 4 weeks in a half marathon was bizarre, but it was a mental game. So that's my approach to this one. I'm gonna go for the heart rate training over the next 6 weeks and see, or 16 weeks, and see how it goes.
Do you find the heart rate training, because the way you're training your heart, it helps with recovery a lot more as well, or you still get the aches and pains in the muscles afterwards?
Yeah, you still get your aches and pains. You definitely, however, because you're built for the endurance, as we spoke about with Aaron's chat, that feeling that you can't move the next day, that slowly dissipates, because you haven't pushed the body. Like when I did that half marathon, I couldn't move for 3 or 4 days afterwards. I had to go for a recovery 2 or 3k just to try and get my body back functioning again, because you've pretty much burnt yourself out. You've ran on all cylinders, the engine is blown, and it needs a couple of days to recover. Whereas when you're doing just an endurance run in zone 2 and your long run on a Sunday, you're running for 2.5 hours, but your heart has never gone over 136 beats per minute as a maximum.
Right.
So you get into your car, you go home, you have a bit of food, and then the next day you're doing a recovery run, and it's not a problem to you. You're just shaking out the kind of the lactic acid, the stretches, but it's not to the same effect as if you're gone sprinting for X amount of time. And
when you get to race day, or maybe there's not, but is there a challenge day leading up to that where you kind of go all out to test what a heart is at?
So
and how do you feel after that then?
Yeah, there's a couple of days where it sets you as you follow the programs through the Garmin ones, which are really good, and the people who have wrote these exercises are people who have done marathons, have done ultra races and stuff. But there are points along the way where it's like your long run is no longer a zone 2 run on a Sunday, it's zone 3 marathon pace.
Right.
And you're doing your zone 3 marathon pace for X amount of time in the run, and that's where you get to understand your body, how it feels at certain points, and if that doesn't matter, and also like that time happens no matter where you are in the run. So for me, it's in the Phoenix Park. So if I'm in zone 3 going up hills, I have to slow that pace to match the hill. So it's not about the distance, it's about managing your body through the different phases of what you're doing. So like the race, if I'm to stay in zone 3, I knew then coming to a hill I'd have to take it back, because I was managing the body as opposed to it all. And then you have your half marathon, so you go at your marathon pace for the half marathon and see how you are, and you're still going to progress, because that's at the halfway point through the training on the 8 weeks. And then you taper off for the final 2 for the big one. But it's definitely an eye-opener, definitely something to be looked into, particularly for people who have that fear of, I can't run as quick as X, I can't go on a group run because they're running at an X pace. Run slow to go fast, and all it takes is time, and you just have to give yourself that extra bit of time to get out there, give your body a chance to adjust. Some will take longer than others, but and I've seen big people, and I don't mean that in disrespect, I'm carrying a lot of weight, have embarrassed me on endurance runs because they've just trained their heart to suit their body. They've trained themselves to manage the endurance, and it's absolutely amazing. And again, I'm no expert on it, but I can only go on the difference I've seen in myself from a person who hates running, absolutely despises it, to now actually satisfied and enjoying the running, because I'm seeing the progress week to week, and it's easily tracked on the watch as well. So it's amazing to see the difference. Absolutely amazing.
From the outside looking into, anyone that's anyway serious about doing triathlons, they kind of need to have that Garmin on the wrist. It just seems like, I mean, we were away on holidays over the where we were in Poland, and we saw a guy, and he had the IronMan tattoo on his calf, and sure enough on his wrist was a Garmin. And anyone you talk about doing Ironmans or getting more to elite level, they seem to have that Garmin on their wrist.
I think once you get to that kind of level, you have to have some kind of a tool which can give you that insight into your performance. It's just about having the information to be able to utilize it and then improve. Otherwise, you're in the dark.
Well, I mean, speaking of the information on the Garmin, am I right in saying that journal, like you were telling me, it was telling you what your expected pace was for a marathon? Yeah,
so it averages out your pace, it tells you what your expected times are and stuff. So that's where, like, again, the management comes in. You see you're on a downhill and you've gone over on the average pace, and you're like, right, I'll try and make up a bit of time here. and because I know what's coming, and that's where the experience of doing the marathons, like you said in one of our episodes, that you've been there before, you know what to expect, so it all helps. And like people who are doing Ironmans, who are doing triathlons, who are doing marathons regularly, they're training on their own. It's not like in the sports where you get instant feedback, you win or you lose, and your performance is graded on how much your man bet lumps out of you on the pit, you get instant feedback, whereas in this you can't see that feedback on, when you look at a time, so you cycle a route, but when you break it down then with the Garmin, right, how much of an elevation would that play into why I was slower, or even when you're doing a swim, it gives you your stroke length, like how many strokes you took in a 25 meter period or a 50 meter period, and you can really get down into it. Now I'm amateur, so I'm just looking at it going, I didn't drown. That's good.
If you can read, you kind of did alright then.
The lifeguard didn't call out.
But I only did triathlons because I have a fear of open water. I do not like swimming in the sea. Lakes, it scares me. It does. Pool, absolutely fine, I can see the tiles, but when I get into the open water, and I did it as an FU to myself, I suppose, to get over it, but as I get more into it, and as I get involved now with triathlon clubs, I have the watch, I've used it, I've known my body, I know myself. That's not to say you need to do that before you join. In fact, I should have joined to get good at the sport initially, but I'm stubborn and like to do things on my own. But
most guys do.
Yeah, so it's but definitely I'll hopefully this year see a massive difference with it, and be able to give people better feedback in what it can do.
And for these 16 weeks leading up to Madrid, will you be training with swimming and cycling, or do you have time just to go all running, and how does that negatively affect your goal for 3:30, or does it all come in as one?
Well, this, like anything, last year I was sole marathon training, and it could, towards the end I kind of got caught up with work and stuff, like people will. Your training can get affected with kids or whatever else is going on in people's eyes, but mine was working towards the end. I kind of suffered a little bit in terms of training, but this time I'm doing it differently, that I am going to go with the triathlon training at the same time, so that will include, so my runs will be runs, and if the triathlon group is going for a run over 10k and I know I have to do a little bit extra, I'll do a little bit extra. I'm going to add on aiming for the 3:30. However, what people don't realise, and again with the heart rate training, if it tells me that I have to do a 30-minute run and I end up doing a 60-minute cycle, a cycle is a fantastic way. It's very hard to come out of zone 2 on a cycle, on a leisurely cycle, and you can go further and longer. It's less impact on the knees and stuff. I'm training the heart, I'm not necessarily training the legs. I have the mileage there, so by doing the cycles and stuff, my heart is still getting the endurance training, less impact on the legs. So I'm going to continue with the triathlon. I'm still going to do my long runs on a Sunday, don't get me wrong. I think it is important to taste those miles in the legs, to get the feet used to it, the blisters, the toenails, the whole lot. But it's I think with the cycling, the swimming and stuff, you're building up your lung capacity. There's so much scope to it there, and the aim eventually for me is to do an Ironman. So I'm going to continue on with this training and then see how we go with the marathon. But I will still be following the Garmin training plan for the marathon as closely as possible, with the variants to suit whatever triathlon training is going on at the same time.
Deadly. So I mean, I wasn't too sure, because I'm not much of a cyclist, and I sure as hell can't swim, so I didn't know how much, if there was a limitation to how much the swimming you think would help you, because your heart rate training, it seems to fit perfectly into
absolutely.
stuff.
Now, don't get me wrong, there's cyclists out there that be saying, what kind of cycling are you doing if you're not getting
but not good uphill anyway.
But you have some people that are specific in their discipline. It's like they have to only just do running, and which is pretty much not the four of us. Maybe it's you, Aaron, if you just do your discipline, could we just do the runs over the next leading up to Madrid. But with Eric, it's like that the heart rate and different training and stuff is going to work. And our next episode, we're going to find out how being a halfback doing hurling and being a barbarian swinging sticks is going to help you do a marathon. Because I can't swim, but I'd rather drown in the pool than play that sport. I'm totally honest with you.
But that is the beauty of it. As in, like people like Aaron, who haven't ran 2 years ago, and like myself, it's like people who run marathons are idiots. I think people who play hurling are idiots.
Oh, big time.
But it's the appreciation of just the sport, how far can you push yourself. That's what it's all about, and taking yourself to a place you never thought you'd go, and wherever that is, be it 5k, 10k marathon, hurling, like it's all about trying something new. And everyone's saying the new year, the new me, and it is all about just trying that new thing. And for us, the four of us with such vast backgrounds, it's great to see how everyone suffers through them, and what works for other people, and hopefully people get solace in the fact that there's others just doing this for them to go, oh yeah, I feel that shit right now, or I feel that good right now, and hopefully this is what we can do with it.
100%. And I think when you say new year, new me, and it's important to do stuff that you get you excited, but also get you a little bit out of your comfort zone. Like you said, with the open water, you were out of your comfort zone doing that, and running the first time for me, out of my comfort zone. Going a little bit faster than 5k, you might be out of your comfort zone. Well, Aaron, we'll see. And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this week's episode on podcast. Eric, thanks for talking about heart rate training and a lot of stuff that I hadn't really much of an idea on, because I ain't got one of those €460 watches.
You don't have to buy one. You don't have to buy one.
And that's it pretty much for this podcast. Thank you once again for listening, downloading and sharing this podcast on your Instagram stories and everything else like that. We really do appreciate it. That's it from us. Okay.